Welcome to the podcast of Fertile Footprints. I am so excited that you're here, and I am excited that I'm here. Fertile Footprints is a project that has been going on for quite some time, and I'm glad that I get to be in a space where I get to share about it publicly now. It's started a while ago when I bought a block of land and trying to develop a food forest and building a tiny house on a duke, all sorts of excited things. I started a blog on it, and I called that blog Fertile Footprints. The reason I called it Fertile Footprints is it got inspired by Michael Braungart, who is amazing, and I look forward to talking more about him later on. And he did a presentation where he talked about leaving footprints, and in sustainable development we often talk about reducing our carbon footprint, tiny carbon footprint. What happens when you reduce your carbon footprint to zero, he said. I'm paraphrasing here, by the way. You die. That is the only way you leave no footprints. So that's not what we want. That's not sustainable. We can't just go and kill everybody. That's not what we want. We want people to thrive, and we want the environment to thrive. So he talked about leaving footprints that are filled with wetlands and rainforests and magic. Well, he didn't use that word, but that is my word. And I took that concept in my mind and converted that to fertile footprints, because that is what I want to leave on this planet. I want to leave footprints that inspire people. I want to leave footprints that are full of magic, because to me, the world's magic, nature's magic, science is magic. I want to leave footprints that my children can stand in, and my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren. So that is the idea behind the name of the podcast. What I want to do with the podcast is the same thing, though. I want to inspire you. I want to show you how amazing the world is. I want to show you how we can do so much better than we are doing right now. I want to talk about practical ideas, like how to grow your own food or how to work in your community, to massive ideas like how we're going to be a spacefaring community one day and how that impacts our sustainable development on our own planet. And I want to talk about the more deeper things as well, like what is it to be alive? Why are we doing the things we are doing? What are the actual problems that are underlying this? Because everything we do and all the problems we are seeing at the moment, they are all connected. They're all connected, and they have to be, because they're all our problems, so they're all connected to us and our behavior. So I want to talk about all these topics and talk them through so that we can get a deeper understanding of what is going on, and we can have then more control over our future. And hopefully we can have a beautiful, fertile future in the end. So what is sustainable development? And why am I not calling it sustainability like many other people are? I'm using the term sustainable development instead of sustainability because sustainability isn't an end goal. It isn't a thing. It is a process. It is a process of changes. It's a process in that it is affecting the way we do things. Solar panels are not sustainable in their own. That is, putting solar panels on a house does not make your house sustainable. That is not sustainable development. Sustainable development is looking at every aspect of your design or project and analyzing what happens in it. Where do your materials come from? Where do they go when you're finished with them? How are they created? How are they mined? How are they transformed into the product you're using? Who is doing that work? How is it transported to you? Who is doing that work? Looking at all those aspects, the system that is existing, the system in which this product exists, analyzing as much as possible of that. That is what makes a project sustainable. And because that is not a thing, I prefer to use the term sustainable development, It's a development. It's something that we're working on. It's something that we are improving on. It's something that you can always improve on. There is never a perfect solution. You can always do better, no matter what we do. We've been taught throughout our time that processes happen in a linear fashion. We take something out of the ground, we turn it into something else, we use it, we throw it in the bin, goes back in the ground. It's very linear. This is not how nature works. Nature works in systems. Nature works in ecosystems. You put whatever you took out of the ground back in the ground, it's not going to go away. There is no away. In the whole of the universe, there is no away. Everything we've created, all the atoms, all the molecules, well, maybe not the molecules, because they can change, but the atoms will always be there. Not counting nuclear fission and all that stuff, of course. But the energy is always going to be there, and the materials are always going to be there. And on this planet, you can assume that if you pull oil out of the ground, all that carbon, that is not going to leave the planet. That is going to go somewhere. And in our world, it's going to go in our environment, in our atmosphere at the moment. And as we've seen, that is causing trouble. So because nature is a system, when you change something in that system, other things are going to change too. I want you to think back of your high school biology, and you've got your pond, right? You've got your pond, and the pond's stable. There's nothing happening in this pond. But what happens if you would add a whole bunch of nitrogen to that pond? The nitrogen is what feeds the plants, right? It's fertilizer. The plants then grow. That's great. You've got more plants. What's wrong with that? Fish will maybe eat the plants. That's great. But the balance change. So if the plants grow and grow and grow and grow, they also die and die and die and die and die. So they create organic matter that will fill up the pond. And then the pond becomes not a pond anymore. It becomes a swamp. And the system changes. It's natural for systems to change. Our world has been changing from the day it started, so 5 billion odd years ago. Nothing's ever the same. But mostly these changes are gradual. Bar volcanic eruptions and extreme events like meteorite strikes, things change slowly and with time. Now, when we look at our own lives, what have we been doing these last few hundred years? We have been changing things very, very quickly, especially when it comes to taking materials out of the ground. That is not just oils, that is metals, that is salts, that is all sorts of other chemicals, fertilizer. We've been taking them out of the ground, using them and putting them somewhere else. And with that, we've been thriving. And look around us, we have so many people who are living rich, healthy lives. It might not feel that way, but when you look through our history books, you know that we are doing really, really well as a human species, but it is clearly starting to come as a cost. Because we've changed things, other things will change too. That's just how the world works. That's how the universe works. So we need to learn to deal with that. And instead of looking at things linearly, going from A to B, we need to look at things organically and systematically. Well, not systematically, but as it is a system that, you know, we can go from A to B, but we are connected to C, D, E, F, and G, and the whole other alphabet as well, and they're all having an impact on each other. And it is complex. We need to embrace that complexity. So, if you want to create a sustainable project, you've got to understand as much as you possibly can of that system. And you've got to think really hard about all of the aspects in it. Where do the materials come from? Who is doing this work? Because sustainable development is very, very much a social thing as well as a material thing. And what are the impacts? Where do these chemicals go to? What do these people do that work in here? What do they need? Are they being looked after? Are their human rights being respected? All those things are really important to think. And the more detail you can put into thinking that, And the more creative you can be in solutions for the problems that you invariably are going to find. There will always be problems, I can guarantee that. But the deeper you think about that, the more sustainable your project will be. And the more it will inspire people. I want to give an example here. Last week, Elon Musk and Tesla had Battery Day, and they talked about batteries. Very boring subject for the majority of the world, which is why 9 million people watched it, right? Somehow, Tesla has made this very boring subject of batteries into something that was fascinating. And what have they done that makes that project so exciting, so sustainable? In my eyes, it was a perfect example of sustainable project. Batteries are complicated, and batteries are very, very toxic. There's a lot of social issues involved with cobalt mining done by children, and there's a lot of issues involved in what's happening to all these very toxic materials when you're done with them. So what Elon Musk did, he went back to basic, first principles. And first principles is a concept I am very keen to explore in depth one day, another time. He went back to the basic principles of the battery. What is it that we actually need from it? What things are we doing simply because that's what we did 80 years ago? So it turned out they were using these chemicals, mixing it with phosphate, I think, because 80 years ago that was the thing they did, and they just never stopped doing it. And he's like, why are we doing all this extra work, needing a huge amount of space when we don't need it? So he redesigned the whole process. He went back to the start, looked at what are all the complex issues related to this battery in every possible direction you can imagine, and he checked every one off. Is this the right way to go? Is this the most efficient way to go? Is this how we're going to hurt the least number of people? And this caught people's attention because that is exciting. This is exciting stuff. Never mind the technology, which probably most people don't understand. I only understood a little bit of it. But the excitement is this is new. Someone went, stuff history, stuff these authorities we've got, stuff these processes and these habits and these rituals and these routines. We're just going to do the right thing, which is a very brave thing to do and a very exciting thing to do. And it's very inspiring for people to see that, you know what, we don't need to do what we have been doing all this time. We can just do what we need to be doing, what we believe is right. And he did that really well. He has a vision. He knows where he wants to go. He wants to have a sustainable planet with sustainable energy. And it doesn't just end with batteries, because he also does solar panels and the electronic transport, and he goes the whole way in every aspect of this. Another thing that really excited me about Battery Days is because they do it all themselves, is that they are looking at fully recycling these batteries. So eventually, once we've supplied the world with all the batteries they need, we can close this loop. And these materials that we're using, these chemicals, they can cycle through the system of making batteries, using batteries, making batteries, using batteries. It's a closed loop. There is no waste. We don't want waste. Waste is not just a waste of material. It's a waste of money, a waste of effort, a waste of energy. It is not what we want. A sustainable system will literally not have any waste. In the world, in the environment, in nature, there is no waste. There's always someone there ready. Snap, pick it up and use it. Nothing ever really gets unused. So closing those loops in that system will make the system more sustainable, more efficient, and more effective. And so I was really excited to see that. Another thing that was really exciting that Elon Musk did was not just look at, what do we need out of a battery and how are we going to do that and get all the chemicals and stuff. He also looked at how are we going to manufacture that. And he completely revolutionized that as well in a very sustainable way, using the ideas that we talk about in sustainable development. He was talking about creating a highway of production instead of this stop start city traffic production. And it's a great metaphor. And smoothing things out means there's no waste. Every time you stop, there's a waste of time because you've stopped. Every time you've got to restart, you've got to put energy into it because mass is slow. It doesn't want to change direction. It doesn't want to change velocity or speed. So every time you're going to change something in the speed or the movement or the velocity or direction of an object, you're going to have to add energy into it, and that obviously, where's that energy come from? So he thought about all these processes and in a very deep way, and he let go of all these attachments to the past and the history and the ideas on how we believe things should be. He let go of all that, went with first principles, and just started the whole thing from scratch. And that is something that I think we need to do in every single aspect of our lives. Why? Look around you. You're sitting in your house or your office or in your car. What are you doing there? What is around you? Why is it there? Is it there just for convention, or is it there because you want it to be there? And what is it giving you? What is it costing you? It's great to have a lot of stuff, but a lot of stuff costs a lot of money and a lot of time to maintain it. So it's not always great to have a lot of stuff. It doesn't make you richer in a way, because of the effort you need to put into maintaining that stuff. There are an unlimited amount of options and ideas that, what a person might need to make them happy. Like, don't think that I'm saying you should get rid of everything, because that would be a zero footprint and that would be death. We don't want that. I want for you to look around yourself and look at how is my environment enriching my life and other people's life. Who is paying for this environment? Who is maintaining it? What are the costs? Where is the waste? Where am I wasting materials, time, money, energy, spirit, all those things? Start analyzing your local environment and look at what have you got? Why is it there? Does it have to be there? What's the history of these things? Where did they come from? And what is the long-term history of these things? I mean, we sit on chairs in Western society, but why do we do that? Plenty of societies don't sit on chairs, and they do really well too. So making those decisions consciously, that is what sustainable development is. And that is what I'm hoping that I'm going to teach you or inspire you with in my series of podcasts. So thank you for listening to the Fertile Footprints podcast. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to sharing more with you soon.